Kia ora koutou katoa. Today is the start of Matariki. It's a festive season which we now mark with a public holiday this coming Friday. It's named after the stars, what Europeans call the Pleiades, 7 sisters, goddesses, though there's more than 7. They're stars among the nearest to Earth. The celebration of Matariki coincides with winter solstice, which is the seasonal beginning for the new year. Both Māori and European cultures share this time. Matariki, the passing of the old year and the welcome to the new, encapsulates many themes and practices. It's a time firstly to remember those who have helped and influenced us, our dead, our stars of the past, who are ever present. Secondly, Matariki is a time of coming change, a turning of the seasons and the coming of light. So it's a time to plan and prepare, to get ready the ground for planting, a time to dream and then to do it. It's a very appropriate time to have a baptism in a church, a celebration of hope, of community, of belonging. And lastly, Matariki occurred at the end of the harvest season. So it was time of giving thanks for our whenua, our land, and Papatuanuku, the Earth Mother, who have sustained us to partake in the bounty of the earth. It's therefore apt that we celebrate this Thanksgiving with communion, which is a rite of connection we have with one another and with those who have gone before us, including our tupuna, Jesus. Today, little Kaimani Fruin has been brought to be baptized. Baptism is one of those rituals of the church that has evolved over the centuries. Its origin was in communal bathing practices. Baptizo was the common everyday word for bathing. And let's imagine we're in the first century St. Luke's village, would come together to bathe in the communal public bath. Such bathing removed the dirt of the day. But it also came to mean for Jesus groups in a symbolic way a washing of the dirt of hurts inflicted, grievances, and the mental and physical difficulties of living under the harsh conditions of poverty and brutal Roman occupation. Feelings of failure, anger, and resentment were washed away to the extent that people could carry on living and loving and caring for family, friends, and others. Others not just in the Jesus group, but in society at large. And the dirt, so to speak, was not just removed by the water, but more so by the camaraderie and fellowship of others in the big bathtub. We gave each other strength and a reminder that we belong. Baptism today is not theoretically that dissimilar from those earlier days. We celebrate that Kaimani is loved by God, belongs in God, and has always belonged in God. This is the central truth this rite holds for us. We might think of God as like that big public bath, always there, always a place of refreshment, meeting, and communal healing. To be baptized, Kamani just simply needs to crawl or be gently taken into that bath, and thus to signify his belonging not only in God, but belonging in this fellowship and camaraderie of the bath. To be in the water is to become who we are, beloved of God, beloved of this Jesus community. But in belonging to the community of this big bathtub and enjoying the fellowship and camaraderie, we also, in time as we grow up, take on the tasks of helping others, to support others, to help them with the dirt of their hurts, with injuries that life throws our way. The love and freedom we experience in belonging is not experienced fully until it's given away, until we love others, free others, help others. So we welcome Kaimani this morning to the community of the big bathtub. The second reading today, a parable about a mustard seed, is very subversive. Mustard was the oxalis of the ancient world, a wind-blown weed. Once in your garden, it was devilishly difficult to get out. It's a big nuisance. The parable tells us that God's empire, unlike the big established Roman Empire, is like a tiny mustard seed, disruptive of good gardens, a right pain and problem. The metaphor is pointing to the practice of early Jesus groups, who were on the edge of society, attractive to nuisances and nobodies, to the weeds who didn't fit or were rejected elsewhere. They were countercultural, small, growing in plain sight. And the wind, the Spirit of God, caused Jesus groups to sprout all over the place and in environments that were inconvenient for those in power. From our earliest records, we have they met together, maybe a dozen or more so people, to sit down, relax, eat, drink, talk together. A supper club, if you like. It was a meal of encouragement and of connection. This was the origin of our communion practice. And as I said earlier, the bathing practice these Jesus groups engaged in was the origin of Christian baptism. Both of these happenings, supper clubs, communal bathing, did not have strict rules around who could participate. If someone new came along or was brought along, of course they joined in the eating and the bathing. If children came or were brought along, of course they joined in the eating and the bathing. This was a club more concerned about values of caring than boundaries of admission, about inclusion rather than rules. But in time, this all changed. The small, weedy, disruptive groups, peripheral to good order in the first 2 centuries CE, became by the 3rd and 4th centuries larger, attractive, and central to the order of society. With this change to what scholars call Christendom, came the formalization of eating together into Holy Communion, and the formalization of communal bathing into Holy Baptism. And with such formalization came boundaries and rules about who could partake, and the importance of having the right theological beliefs and the right moral behaviors. Orthodoxy was all important. Sometime in the late 20th century, the wheels finally came off Christendom and orthodoxy. and although they still had and still have momentum. Western churches have been declining throughout that century in numbers, money, and influence, and continue to do so. The God with a capital G, the one who alleged that the whole world was in his hands, now looked decidedly wobbly. More and more people did not see God as the creator of the universe. Hello, the universe evolved. Or as the righteous, moral judge of all. Morality is not set or arbitrated by God. Or as the controller of the gateway to heaven. There is no literal heaven. Many faith communities gladly gave up notions of an all-powerful capital G God and that God's privileging of an all-powerful religion, the Christian Church, and began to put the values of love and justice at the center of not only their behaviors but their beliefs. God was not the strong leader of armies and dominions, but the insistence of love and equity. Jesus came not to take control and make everyone believe in him, but to give of himself in loving, empowering, and serving. And this change, a post-Christendom change, this heterodoxy, had consequences for our beliefs and practices around communion, baptism, and children. The season of the wild mustard seeds had come again. Children were no longer excluded from communion. Hooray! The beliefs of a child's parents no longer could exclude a child from baptism. Hooray! A stranger to church, with no one knowing his or her faith or beliefs, could join in communion. Hooray! What mattered was hospitality and inclusion. Hospitality and inclusion trump so-called right beliefs and right practices. Creeds were either relegated to history or were just simply disbelieved. What mattered was the practice of love. The God whose best name was love. Knowing that we're each born to bear that image of God, that image of love. And the power of such love to bring joy and hope in our own and others' lives. Blessings to you.